There you are.
As soon as you hit.
Hello, kiddies. It's your old pal, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to Video Store Clerks Podcast.
Welcome to the store.
Holy shit, it's the Attack of Buddy Munster.
There he is.
We're all here. Forgive our technical difficulties tonight, folks. It happens, but we're here now, and that's all that matters. And who we are the Video Store Clerks, and this is the Video Store Clerks Podcast. We welcome you once again. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We have another fun one tonight, as our main subject, in case you haven't figured it out by now, is The Lost Boys. All kinds of fun stuff this evening. But once again, we are your Video Store Clerks. I am David Frog.
Chad Frog.
I'm Michael.
Chuck Whitman.
Oh my God, how is everybody tonight? Are you ready? Are you ready? I know I am. I can make lightsaber sounds from my butt, dude. Check it out. Ah!
He's going to explode.
Wow. But again, thank you so much for joining us. I'll try to calm down. I'll try to contain myself, but I can't help it because this is a childhood favorite. Damn it. 36 years old as of yesterday. Unfucking believable. And still going strong. Still gets passed down from generation to generation. But that's our main course for tonight, if you will. But we will start the program as we always do with
The news?
the news!
Motherfucker, it's the news Sunday.
You're live. We just got out of a screening for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, and I'm with my friend, the zombie, Jonathan. Looking good. Jonathan just got an awesome face paint job. What'd you think of the movie?
I like turtles.
All right. You're a great zombie.
Look at that.
April O'Neil on the case again.
I was gonna say, she looks a lot like April O'Neil in that photo.
Right.
Or the video.
And on Channel 8. Well, I have no good news tonight. Absolutely none. I got nothing. So let's just get it. I almost didn't want to do the news tonight, but here we go. Oh, God, the big news. Yesterday, Paul Reubens, a.k.a. Pee Wee Herman, passed away. Man, this one really bothered me.
Yeah.
Ah! What the? And just real quick.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah.
Goodbye, Paul Reubens, Pee Wee. Thank you for all the memories.
Hamburger Man.
Ah! Also, a young up-and-coming actor, Angus Cloud, also passed away at 25 years old, star of Euphoria, and he had several projects in the pipeline, apparently, at least 3. It's rumored that it was an overdose, as the young guy had a hard time coping with the loss of his father recently. So, oh, God. I'm done.
Who'd you say? I didn't hear you say who you said.
Angus Cloud was the young man's name.
Oh, I don't know who he is. Okay.
The strike continues. We have a whole list of delays coming up for you. The Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse sequel is totally up in the air. It was originally supposed to come out March 2024. No word yet on as to where that movie will land. The Bad Boys sequel, Bad Boys for Life. I'm sorry, I don't know what the original release date for that, but it's pushed back to June 14th, 2024. Venom 3, unfortunately, will no longer be coming out in October. It has been moved to July 12th, 2024. Oh boy, the one that really sucks, the Ghostbusters sequel. Was originally supposed to come out December of this year. It has been bumped to March 29th, 2024. A Karate Kid sequel and Kraven the Hunter have been given the harshest pushbacks, as Kraven the Hunter was originally supposed to come out October of this year. In fact, the trailer just dropped not too long ago. It has been pushed to August 30th, 2024, almost a year. And the Karate Kid film was originally scheduled for June 7th, 2024. It will now be December the 13th of 2024.
What the fuck?
So
Pretty big pushback.
yeah, major pushbacks.
I was gonna say those were getting ready to come out. I was like, holy shit.
Yep.
Shit.
Also expect Dune 2, Aquaman 2, and a whole host of others will get rescheduled, and this because the strike is at a total standstill. Nobody's even coming to the table to try to negotiate. So it's hard to say how much longer this thing will go on. You know what? I've been in a good mood all day. I've been excited for this episode, so I don't care about this story. I don't care about that one or that one or that one. The news is done. Let's get to it.
No more news.
Let's go back to a happier time. 1987, The Lost Boys, the Joel Schumacher horror, comedy, action, super classic, something for everybody. For me personally, it checked all the boxes because they somehow managed to get that perfect blend, again, of horror, action, comedy, an amazing cast. My God, because half of them now are household names, but back then they were all still rising stars. Even Kiefer Sutherland was just coming off of Stand By Me. Diane Weiss, I think, just won an Oscar the year before.
She did.
I'm sorry, I don't recall the name of the movie, but she had just won an Oscar in '86. Jason Patrick, Corey Feldman did a few things, but he was still a rising star at the time, and of course Corey Haim. Also rising stars. So again, an amazing cast. Jason Patrick had a lot of input with this movie. And of course, again, directed by Joel Schumacher, executive producer Richard Donner. Whole host of others, just amazing talents went into this classic movie. It's a movie you can watch anytime. Never gets old like the vampires themselves. You know, it's a movie you could go see with your friends. It's a movie you could take a date to. I remember like it was fucking last week this movie was in theaters. I remember seeing the poster for it. Because it was like, oh, that's the older kids. That's the cool kids. The teenagers, you know.
Yeah.
But I wasn't able to see it till it came out on HBO a year later.
It's the movie that's responsible for wanting to me. Like, if you could sign up to be a vampire, fucking give me the paper.
I'll sign.
True. Because it got the vampires like out of the dungeons and out of the sewers and all that type of stuff. It made vampires cool, maybe for the first time. I mean, I thought they were cool anyway, but
come on.
You know, it made them cool. So maybe the first time. When did Near Dark come out? That might have been
before that.
So Near Dark. Near Dark.
So it's the second.
Right. I was like, it's the second one to make
Wait, Whitman, are you saying all the vampires before sucked?
Holy shit, it's the attack of Eddie Munster.
Lord.
No, he's right though, because this movie, I mean, that's what you automatically think of when you think of like cool vampires.
Leather jackets, riding motorcycles and shit, hanging out on the boardwalks.
Weird head things going on with their hair.
Right, it's like, I don't know, the hairstyle is the least cool part about the whole thing. But they were just, I don't know, and the fact that they were young, and they didn't try to make them like ugly, or they didn't try to like hide them.
Yeah,
you know, it's like other vampire movies. Even Dracula, he's not like, you know, a Nosferatu, but he's still in a castle. He hides out. Like these dudes were just like chilling on the boardwalk at night, you know, and just I don't know.
People
it looked fun as hell, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted everybody to have long ass hair, and then like Kiefer's hair was even long back then. And then they told him to dye it, so he like dyed it white, and he said he looked like a wrestler. So he was like, I'm fucking cutting my hair, and then he ended up like Billy Idol just released his album, and then he was like, well, that's a pretty cool looking haircut. So he got it the barber to chop it up like that, and fucking apparently like Joel Schumacher was pissed. But then they ran with it, and he's like, so like a lot of interviews you see with Kiefer talking about it, he's like, I'm pretty sure I invented the mullet. For that, I am sorry.
Don't apologize. Yeah, it looks.
No, I mean, it looked dope.
It works for him.
Yeah, like that's one of the most memorable hairstyles ever in almost any movie, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah,
he said it
was so bright.
He said Joel wanted his hair white, to have that timeless, that ageless look. And then he said because it was long and white, he said he looked like Ric Flair. I don't want to go for that.
Woo!
Which I don't have a problem with, but I guess he didn't want to look like Ric Flair.
Right.
Yeah, fair enough.
But he pulled it off.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. I had a mullet back in the day, and I wanted all the kids to call me David.
Moulet. Well, I'm pretty sure they call you David anyway.
Everyone called me Dave.
No. Okay.
So I was like, no, it's David.
Call me David.
David.
And because Kiefer didn't have a whole lot of dialogue in this movie, not as much as you would think. But you remember the character.
Yeah.
And I forgot to mention Alex Winter as well, who played Marco, who later, not too long after, went on to go do Bill and Ted.
You killed Marco.
You missed, sucker.
When I first saw it, I pointed out that it was Duke.
Such a fucking good movie.
And Brooke McCarter, who played Paul, who was the blonde, long-haired blonde vampire that fell in the bathtub.
Yeah.
Well, the gentleman that played Dwayne, the dark-haired vampire, Billy Worth, told us the story that he was originally supposed to play David until they signed Kiefer. And, of course, Kiefer was a rising star, so they went with Kiefer, and they were like, we want to keep you. Can you be this other vampire? And he was like, cool. So that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
And there was another funny story he told us about how they were on set. It was that scene where they had the torches. And Kiefer had a torch in his hand. And, of course, he was getting into character, and he started, getting a little too close with the torch to Brooke. And Brooke was like, get away from me, man. And he kept doing it. And he was like, "It's the last time I'm telling you, get away." And Kiefer does it again, and Brooke gives him this Bruce Lee fucking roundhouse kick, and kicks the torch out of his hand. And Kiefer had that flammable liquid on his arm, so he caught on fire. And all the crew members came and put it out. The director, I forgot, everybody's freaking out, but luckily he was okay.
Yeah, he's a vampire.
Aside from him breaking his hand during the movie and wearing the black gloves to cover his cast.
Oh, how did he break his hand?
Doing some fucking shit on the motorcycle.
Yeah, he said he was he was going around the boardwalk popping wheelies and shit, trying to impress some girl that he saw. And
how it happens.
Ended up hitting and flipping off the bike and broke his wrist.
Oh shit. It's with all these injuries on all these classic movies.
Well, they did all their own bike work, all the actors.
Yeah, no CGI in this motherfucker. And you told me the story about the worms, the maggots, and the flies, right?
Yeah, they actually had a worm, fly, and maggot wrangler on set because they used all real worms and maggots and shit. And then they were just kind of sitting in the box. So whenever they wanted to actually film the scene, they'd take lemons and squeeze the lemon juice on them, and then they'd start moving around. Then they'd start filming. I was like, that's pretty fucking crazy.
They're just noodles.
Couple noodles.
You're right. Yeah, I knew you were something.
And you can't talk about the Lost Boys without talking about the soundtrack.
Oh, man.
Oh, so good. I own this one. This was one I played a lot.
Hey, I got that too. Hell yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I had the tape back in the day. But one thing I noticed is that Aerosmith song I was like, either I skipped that Aerosmith song every time, or it's just not on the soundtrack. It actually wasn't on the soundtrack.
Only song not on the soundtrack.
Not that I minded, because I think I don't know. Is Cry Little Sister everybody's favorite? Because mine's the other one, the one where they're on the motorcycles.
Yes.
Yeah. That's my favorite.
Lost in the Shadows.
Lost in the Shadows. That's it.
Yep.
I kept wanting to say Into the Night, but
I think Lost in the Shadows is my favorite. It's a pretty close tie, but
yeah.
There's something about Lost in the Shadows, maybe where I haven't heard it as much.
That would be, yeah.
And it's still, but the whole soundtrack is good. But Lost in the Shadows is probably my favorite.
It's the best song.
Yeah, that's the one. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the Cry Little Sister, that's been covered so many times.
And it's awesome, too.
Yeah, but like, most notably, Marilyn Manson covered it in recent times, which I always wondered why he never did that song. So when he finally did it, I was like, oh, that could have been better.
And now he's getting old. So,
well, yeah. And then fucking Corey Feldman covered it. I've seen video clips of him doing that live. And boy, was that weird.
He's a strange cat, yo, but I don't know.
I really want to see him at concert. I really want to
I do
to a
too.
show.
I'm not gonna lie. I really want to
go
when he's coming this way because I'm trying to go.
I mean, everybody wants to go to see the shit show, right? You know, and that's the only reason everybody really goes. But would I go if somebody? Yeah. If someone was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go see Corey Feldman," you know, we'll pay for you. I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" But it wouldn't be because I like his music.
I don't know, man.
But it looks like
Ascension Millennium gets stuck in your head for fucking months at a time.
Son of a bitch.
But no, Lost in the Shadows is my favorite too, Dave.
Okay.
Like I've said before, if you can put music into a film that really gets, for me anyway, if you put music into a film that really gets me amped up, or you know, makes me feel like I want to be the character or be there with the character, that is when it's at its best, because it's like you hear that song, you see them on the motorcycles, you're like, hell yeah, I want to be out riding some motorcycles doing some vampire shit too. So it gets you super hype, and you know, it just makes the scene even more, you know, memorable.
I think it sets the tone for the movie really well. Like
it's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah.
No.
And back in the 80s, you know, MTV was still kind of new when this movie came out. And I think that's even a line in the movie. I think Corey Haim says, if there's no TV, that means there's no MTV or something like that.
Yeah.
You got a TV guide, you don't need a TV.
And leading to another memorable scene on the bridge. And I just saw a YouTube short not too long ago, because something I never noticed. The order that the vampires jump off the bridge is the same order they die in the movie, which I never caught that before. And I was like, oh, okay. And leading again with the soundtrack, that leads us to another famous scene, everyone's favorite saxophone player.
Oh,
yeah, man.
Credit where credit is due. The dude made an entire career out of that one scene in this one movie. It's just unbelievable.
Still going to conventions and stuff.
It's crazy, isn't it?
He started out playing the saxophone for fucking Tina Turner.
Yeah. He's played with a few people.
He was badass.
Yeah, I follow him on TikTok.
Tim Capello.
It's so funny.
I guess it's him. It's always videos of him playing. It's just like this.
Yeah.
He still looks the same, just a little older.
Still looks the same.
Still doing the same shit. Yeah. Like,
what up, Jess?
He played for. I don't know. I give the guy a lot of fucking credit, but like that song, that part, that little moment, like it's just so fucking catchy.
That scene is memorable for all kinds of different reasons. Of course, you know, saxophone guy going nuts on the stage, but that's when you see Star in the crowd, and it's just like
it's a good shot.
This nighttime, you know, it's just like this nighttime concert. I don't know. It kind of reinforces the feel of what's.
It's kind of creepy in a way, because fucking Michael was just like
staring at him.
He's just like Google eyes, like
And then he starts following her around the fucking park, like, all right, stalker, get the fuck away from me.
Fucking creeper.
Like you're in the murder capital of the world, and like you don't really know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, he looks like the straight up murderer.
Right. He's just fucking staring at her like, come here.
And I believe Santa Carla really was known as the murder capital of the world at one point. I think back in the 70s, there was a couple serial killers or something running loose.
Yeah, and then because it was filmed in Santa Cruz, but then they wanted them to change the name because they didn't want them to advertise Santa Cruz as being the murder capital of the world. Even though at the time they kind of technically were.
That's bad for business.
Right? But now every year on the anniversary, they show the movie on the beach.
Right.
I'm trying to go to that one here. That'd be fucking sick.
Yeah, that would be cool. It's on the bucket list for me too, man. I think it'd be awesome. Yeah, I can do that.
Because a lot of those sets were on the boardwalk, including, and yes, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, where does Max work?
The video store.
Oh!
It'd be cool if he walked out, but he's dead.
Yeah, quite a few of the cast members and crew have passed away since, unfortunately. Including Brooke, Joel Schumacher, Corey Haim, of course.
Richard
Donner. Yeah, Richard Donner.
I really am just glad that Richard Donner didn't do the film. Like, I'm glad Lethal Weapon came around and this took so long to do, because it would have been a totally fucking different movie. Not saying I might not have still liked it, but if they did like a Goonies vampire type fucking movie with 13-year-old kids or whatever, that'd been weird.
Yeah, I think that was the original plan, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then Schumacher didn't like it because he was calling Donner to turn the fucking thing down, but Donner was out to lunch. So then like it gave Joel a few minutes to just sit there and kind of dwell on it, and then he fucking pretty much just changed a bunch of shit, pitched it, and they were like, "Fuck yeah." Yeah. So the rest is history, as they say.
Good decision.
Yeah, I saw an interview where Joel was saying that he came off St. Elmo's Fire, and then they offered him this, and he basically, I think it was the head of Warner Brothers or whatever explained to him. He was like, gave him the rundown of what the idea was, and he's like, it was a little kid teen Goonies, vampire movie.
Exactly.
Right.
He was not interested at all, and it took some convincing for him to get on board. And they allowed him to kind of move some pieces around and change things into what it became. And like you said, Dick Donner originally going to direct it, and then he went off and did Lethal Weapon, and then Schumacher came in, schooled it.
So everything really worked out for everybody in the end.
It really did, and it was the starting of the trend of the two Coreys being in fucking everything together.
And was it like 5 or 6 movies they did together?
I think 6,
something like that.
But the only good one. This is the only good one, I think.
I mean, License to Drive's pretty good.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of them in a long time.
Not a Dream Little Dream fan?
Oh.
No.
I do remember watching that movie as a kid, though.
Yeah, I think everybody has.
Yeah.
Just not the second one.
Talking about the soundtracks and stuff, like it's kind of related but kind of not. When I first saw this movie, I always I think of another movie when I think of Lost Boys, and it's The Doors.
Oh yeah, man.
Reason being is I
was going to bring this up.
Well, what's crazy? Well, see, my reason for it though is I watched both these movies. I can't remember how old I was, but I was going to like summer camp for the first time, and so the next day I was going to camp, but the night before I was like watching movies. Like these my parents had rented them or some shit they were on, and it was The Doors and Lost Boys, and I thought it was kind of interesting the fact that there's a big Jim Morrison poster in the cave.
Well, yeah,
and I was like, oh shit, like that was like a total accident. So like I always, when I think of Lost Boys, I also think of the Oliver Stone film The Doors. And
that's what I was going to bring up is the weird Doors connection. And I don't know what they were really trying to do with it or whose reason that was, but Michael, there's that one scene where he like blends and he looks like a young Jim Morrison. There's that Morrison flag hanging up in their lair down there. And then on the soundtrack, even though they don't have the Doors version, they have
People Are Strange.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and it's by Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah, I remember one of the first times I seen it. The Doors are my favorite band of all time.
Yeah,
and I remember one of the first times I saw this film. Whenever it opens up at the beginning with the Echo and the Bunnyman version of People Were Strange, I was pissed. I was like, "Why the fuck you playing this shit?" I was like, "Get Morrison on here." And then later on, I see the mural thing hanging up in the cave of Jim Morrison. I'm like, all right, but still, you should have put.
Oh, forgive it.
The Doors. I imagine they couldn't afford the Doors version and just paid Echo and the Bunnymen to cover it, or Echo and the Bunnymen covered it, and they paid for that, which was cheaper. So, but I remember I was kind of heated. I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
I just never knew like why all the kind of Doors stuff.
I would say the whole thing about like just
Morrison being weird and just staying the Forever 27. And that's kind of what I have just come to put with it.
It's just maybe to emphasize the theme of being an outcast.
Yeah,
maybe or it's just as simple as that the writers were big fans of the Doors. It might just be simple as that.
It could be a little bit of that. Yeah. I would say a little bit of everything.
I wouldn't be surprised. Schumacher probably had a crush on Morrison. I don't know.
Maybe. But it is like what you're saying. Like Morrison died young. and there's all this weird stuff around his death and all this stuff. So it's like, all right, they're just making some stretches and some connections.
Yeah.
But I always loved it because I loved the Doors when I was a young kid, and just when I watched this, I was like, oh, shit,
so amazing. They don't get enough credit, man. Fucking. Like I said, they're my favorite of all time, and fucking, it's like, you know, all these people that are big on the Beatles. I'm like,
fuck the Beatles, man.
I never understood it. I never understood the Beatles thing.
I was always more into Pink Floyd.
Yeah, I just never understood it. If you dig the Beatles, that's cool, but I just never understood it myself.
They're all right for what they are, but it's like, it's pop music, you know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's nothing deep to the lyrics, I don't think. But
the layers, the depth to the fucking Doors is just so incredible. Manzarek, Krieger, all those guys are just phenomenal musicians, or were phenomenal musicians. Yeah. Even you know Krieger and Densmore are still around, but the other two are gone. But just a phenomenal band. Just so many layers, and it's like they don't get enough credit because of all the drug use and everything back then. It's like, oh,
they got a lot of
huh?
I like the Doors. I think that they're one of the greatest bands ever came, you know, what the face of the earth. I'm not a Jim Morrison fan. Kind of annoys me. Like, I respect him, whatever. But like, I don't know. I like the Animals, so whatever.
Yeah, Mike got me into the Doors when we were kids.
I still listen to the Doors. Don't get me fucked up. I don't know. I still think some of my favorite albums are by them, but Jim Morrison gets on my nerves sometimes. We don't talk about the Doors very much because he gets a little pissed. So I'm like, I have to watch this.
Fuck you, we're not friends no more.
Yeah. Right. I'm the Lizard King.
Right? I do anything.
Whatever.
But yeah, so many memories from this movie. When I was really lucky growing up because my parents had HBO, so I was able to watch this movie when it, you know, came on cable. See, back then, kids, we had to wait like 9 months to a year for a movie to come out on home video on cable. What? So after it left theaters, you know, you had to wait a really, really long time to see the movie. And I remember I had this on the same tape as the Monster Squad when I was a kid. So
it's a good double feature. That's a good double feature.
And I think the Goonies thing is what maybe hurt the Monster Squad a little bit, maybe because it was just everything after that. Everything after the Goonies just seemed like a Goonies ripoff, at least for a short time. And
that's what this would have been if they would have had their way.
That's what this would have been, and thank God it wasn't.
Yeah,
good decision.
Schumacher was saying the original script he read through, it had like Cub Scout jokes and peanut butter jokes and shit like that. And they were like, he was like, "What is this?" You know. He wanted to do something with more substance, you know. He wanted to, you know, the vampires to be older, have a little bit more relevance. Like, you know, it's like, you know, they're moving to Santa Clara. Michael is, you know, pretty much replacing his dad in the family, and you know, he has all these new responsibilities, and you know, and along with that comes the whole issue of turning into a vampire. So it's. Good.
I was gonna say it just all started out too with Peter Pan.
Yeah,
that's how they got the name Lost Boys.
That's another reference.
And as they said, it's one of the few movies that nobody actually uses the title name in the movie.
Oh, that's true. Huh. And there's also a couple references to the Munsters. They have a Munsters poster in the cave, and of course the Frog Brothers line. Holy shit! It's the attack of Eddie Munster. Good shit, pal. But yeah,
speaking of posters, wait a second. Speaking of posters hanging up in Lost Boys, we want to talk about Corey Haim's room.
Oh Jesus,
the Rob Lowe ab shot.
I just want to go ahead and say I
love that everybody knows exactly what you're saying.
It just always confused me. I was like,
oh, very.
Why does he have? Because like I had like buddies that I went to their house and like their sisters would have that kind of shit on their wall. And I'm like, why?
They had that fucking clock, that watch clock. My babysitter had that on her wall.
Well, yeah, he had the Rob Lowe fucking ab pic. Then he had a George Michael poster, and then in the back he had a fucking movie poster for reformed schoolgirls. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they were just like,
It's
"Hey,
everywhere.
Cole, what do we fix this room up with? I got a box, just empty it out wherever."
Well, I figure, Rob Lowe was in St. Elmo's Fire, so they're probably trying to give him a shout out there, a little Easter egg. And there back then there probably wasn't a ton of Rob Lowe posters. It's like, oh, this is the only one. Oh.
That's like the kind of poster like a chick would get out of like her like little girly magazine back in the 80s.
But I mean, I don't know. It might just be a Schumacher thing. I mean, Schumacher was openly gay, and they said that he didn't put a lot of references to the gay community or that lifestyle in his films, but I feel like there are some, which there's nothing wrong with. I'm not saying it's wrong, but you can see, if you're a gay man as a director, you're probably going to want to incorporate things that relate to your life and things like that, even the little subtle things, like whenever Michael and David first meet and he's trying to get Star to go Michael's trying to get Star to go with him, and then David shows up and she ends up getting on the motorcycle with him. It's like David seems like he's more into Michael than Star.
Right.
He's like, so it's like it's funny because the dynamic is like Michael's trying to pick up Star, but David's trying to pick up Michael, but not in a let's go have sex thing. It's come back so I can turn you into a vampire thing.
Yeah,
so
right.
I mean, I don't know.
I was talking to Dave earlier on the way here about how like there's like some little subtle like undertone like Nightmare 2 type shit going on in there.
For sure.
It was a lot more subtle than Nightmare 2.
Well, yeah. But I didn't know what else to compare it to.
And I mean, even, the whole idea of vampires and everything comes across, I can see where Schumacher's probably big, you've got Lost Boys. He's done the Batman movies. It's like this guy loves bats and the whole idea. So the whole concept of vampires and kind of the intimacy. And it's like, even with Twilight and True Blood and stuff like that, it's that feeling because as a vampire, it's like an intimate act of like, I have to bite you on the neck and I got to drain you of your life force. So it's kind of an intimate act, regardless of if it's a male or female performing the act. So, it's always had that kind of sexy undertone along with it. So I know. It is what it is.
You can't forget about Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander as the Frog Brothers, though. They're video store run vampire hunters.
Hey.
Oh yeah, nice.
You cannot forget.
That might save your life.
It just might. Yeah, sure. But you can't forget about them. I mean, they like at first like they were supposed to be a little older, but then so like they made them younger. And then Schumacher pretty much told him, go rent a bunch of Stallone flicks and some Chuck Norris movies and get your act on.
That's fine.
So that's all they did for homework. They just watched a shitload of Stallone movies, like all the Rambos. And I think, what was the big Chuck Norris one back in the day? Delta Force, maybe?
Delta Force.
Probably.
Yeah, like all those fucking movies.
The Octagon.
Yeah, so that's kind of like where he picked up and got the way they acted. They just were supposed to be little badasses, and it fucking worked. It worked out good though too. Like they were great.
But man, it was prime time for Corey Feldman, man. Whew. Like what he did Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
he did Goonies. He did Stand By Me, and now like this
all in a row too. I think they were all about a year apart.
Yeah.
Killing it.
Huh. So, I mean, like I said, it's prime time for Corey Feldman. He's loving life, hitting all the big films.
Yeah.
Corey Haim, this is like pretty much he's done stuff before this, but this was his like real introduction to the big time.
I mean, I think before this, the only like big movies he really did that did any did good or whatever was Silver Bullet and then fucking Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Silver Bullet's a great movie. And Lucas isn't bad either.
No, they're both all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely miss Corey Haim. That's
yeah.
So
yeah, we met him a year or so before he died, I guess.
Really?
Or was it even that long? It might have been less than that.
Something like
you
that.
met Chad.
Like months.
That was it.
I even gave him a cigarette.
I didn't remember telling that actually.
And then Newlander didn't even really do too much after he did The Blob and some other stuff. But he didn't really do a whole lot after that. It was pretty much his gimmick. his deal.
And because Corey Haim was a lot more talented, I think than he got credit for. But being a child actor, especially back then,
It's tough, man.
it was even worse back then. I mean, I don't think there was any laws in place back then you just got thrown in the fucking deep end, and that was it.
And wasn't this the film that Feldman was accusing people of exposing him to drugs?
Yeah, they said they used to run around smoking joints and shit on set all the time.
Yeah, and so this is one of the times where it kind of started the spiral for these guys, where they're involved with heavy drugs. I think they were even exposed to cocaine. He said that Schumacher didn't know about it, though. He said Joel Schumacher was actually, whenever Schumacher passed away, he was saying how, he just praised him because Schumacher was one of the few people that tried to, always supported him and was always there for him over the years. Even after the films and all that, later on, like he said, like all the time he'd get emails from Schumacher, just support messages and stuff like this. Schumacher. Everybody says very good things about Joel Schumacher. Very high praise of him, and
the whole Batman and Robin thing always fucking irritated me. But he was such a cool guy, because that was the studio's fault. But he was such a cool guy, such a fucking man. He went out there and was apologizing for it. I was like, fuck that. That's not your fault. That's fucking Warner Brothers that did that dumb shit. But that's a whole nother episode.
Whenever we saw him in New York that time, he seemed really chill and nice. And he was wasn't he filming a movie?
No, he was. We met him on like one of his shittiest movies of all time, 12. It was called 12, and it was
fucking
terrible.
50 Cent.
Yeah, but I mean, he was a super nice guy. But great films. I mean, he's like we said before, the Batman films. He did Flatliners. He did one of my favorite films he did was Falling Down.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a favorite. Yeah, man.
8mm, 8mm, Tigerland, phone booth. Another one with Kiefer. Phantom of the Opera, number 23.
Yeah. Even Flatliners was the other one with Kiefer too. So we did work with Kiefer a good bit.
Yeah, super impressive resume. But that sucks, man. That's a shame. But
he was I think he started out as a costume designer for Woody Allen. And then he started writing stuff, and that's I think he wrote what the hell did he? Oh yeah, he wrote Car Wash, the one with George Carlin and Richard Pryor.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
yeah.
I didn't even notice that. That's fucking sweet. That movie's fucking funny.
He didn't direct it; he just wrote it.
Right. But, that shit's funny.
Yeah, that's a good flick. And then what else? He did. Oh, he did the screenplay for The Wiz.
Okay.
Oh really?
So, yeah, so he kind of transitioned from being a costume designer to writing to directing. He kind of covered all of his bases, and you can even see it. A lot of people say that the style of clothing in The Lost Boys is kind of it was kind of a trend that became prevalent in the 80s, and it was based from this film. And you can see whenever Corey Haim goes into the comic store and they're we're just checking out your civilian gear or something like that, and he's dressed all wild, very designer type clothing for just a young kid. But that's the Schumacher influence, because going back to his previous job as costume designer, he wanted these characters to kind of come to life. And even in other films like the Batman and Robin, if you go look at the Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, you can really see the Joel Schumacher influence as far as costume design, because it's like night and day whenever you're looking at Joel Schumacher's Batman and Tim Burton's Batman, because you can see both styles and tell immediately that it's based off of those directors. So like I said, Joel Schumacher, very great director, and he had an eye for not only costume and style, but casting. He knew how to pick stars. He made Kiefer, he made Julia Roberts, he made Rob Lowe, all these, Demi Moore, so many, Colin Farrell. The list goes on. Matthew McConaughey. A lot of these actors wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for Joel Schumacher and his ability to spot talent and give them that big break.
Yeah.
That's true.
Mike, can you bring up those pictures?
Probably not. I just thought about that whenever he was talking.
Which one?
I just sent you pictures on the phone, but I don't think you have your Facebook on your laptop.
No, I'm not looking. Go ahead. I'll see if I can pull it up real quick.
All right. But yeah, so many memorable scenes. I said a couple of mine. What about you guys down there at the bottom?
Oh, us? Man, there are a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
Like the whole scene with when they first meet Max, when the kid's like, when he comes to the house, and they try to get him with the garlic and all that shit or whatever. That whole thing.
Someone has bad breath.
Yeah. I really love it when Max comes out as the vampire. I think that was one of the coolest things. Like when I first saw that movie, I was like, "Oh, that makes perfect sense. That's fucking badass." You start thinking about the Hounds of Hell and all that shit. Yeah, that was one of my favorites. But the fight with between David and Michael was pretty cool.
So cool.
I'm a sucker for like the good and the bad, but they're both monsters fighting thing.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know. I
dug it.
I don't know.
I wouldn't change anything about this movie.
No.
It's just, I love this fucking movie. Like, I love Kiefer as a vampire. Like, like I said, I've showed this a few times on here, but
yeah, dude,
he's the shit. Like, he's the reason why I wanted to be a vampire when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's why I'm into biting. I don't know. Like,
bite me.
Well, it's like anytime somebody says, "Hey, I'm in a mood to watch a vampire movie," Lost Boys is usually like one of the first things I mention. You know what I mean? It's just,
I figure for you it'd be Near Dark, because I know you love that movie too. But that's fucking right there. Like, those movies are
out there too.
Those movies are fucking on point.
Like, you can put Lost Boys on and just like put it on a party, do whatever, and it's just like a fun. To me, we were talking about this the other night. It's almost like a summer movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't watch this movie much in the wintertime.
Yeah,
I love vampires.
Right, sure.
So like, it's a summertime flick to me. So it's like you put it on a party, you put you can just kind of pop in and out, and it's not serious, and it gets people that may not even be into vampire movies or into horror that will watch this movie.
And there's the picture with Billy Wirth that we had whenever me and Dave were outside just bullshitting with him. And we probably talked to him for what, fucking like 30, 40 minutes?
Yeah, probably.
Just fucking hanging out, bullshitting. He was telling us about the cast and everything.
He was waiting on David Arquette, wasn't he?
I don't know what the fuck he was waiting on. We went back inside eventually, and he's like, "I might see you guys back in there." And I was like, "All right, whatever."
Mm-hmm.
We talked about him coming on the show and shit, but he really isn't into that kind of shit. He just said hit him up on IG or whatever, and we can talk that way if we want to talk. And that's when we met Jason Patrick, obviously. I showed him my David tattoo. Mike was like, "Show him the tattoo." I'm like, "I don't think I should. He'll probably give me shit for not having his tattoo." And then he's like, nah, fuck that. He'll be cool. And then like I showed him, he's like, "Well, where's the tattoo of Michael?" I'm like, "Fuck, see?"
Like, damn it.
Yeah, right.
Told you.
I don't know. All the interviews I see of Jason Patrick, he's very, I don't know, maybe it's just because he's always with Kiefer whenever they're doing Lost Boys stuff. And Kiefer will just talk nonstop about things. But he seems very reserved, very quiet, doesn't really do a whole lot.
Everything I've seen with him is usually doing stuff with Kiefer or he's doing shit with Billy Wirth.
Yeah.
You know, his dad was the priest in The Exorcist.
Yeah.
He was an actor. Yeah, Jason Miller.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He said he didn't watch horror movies for a long time when he was a kid because he was on set one day and he went in to get a Coke and fucking Linda Blair came walking in with full makeup. And he was, and she was getting ready to grab a Coke out of the freezer, and he was like, "Fuck that!" And he just turned around and like walked away.
That's got funny.
He's like, "That was my introduction to horror movies."
Nice, but no, he was super cool, man. He was just like real laid back, like real humble. Just it was just
they're
like
all good guys. Like even Kiefer's like a real nice dude. I mean, unless you're chasing him, then he'll flip out on you for a minute.
Don't stalk him.
No, I was just going to say a second ago, you mentioned Near Dark. You know, that'd be a really cool, like, crossover. Near Dark and Lost Boys, it would work. You'd totally come up with something like that.
Well, I heard some crazy shit watching like different videos on YouTube about people like piecing together Lost Boys type shit, and like they were really grasping for straws, but they were like, what if like his character in Stand By Me like years later or whatever fucking ends up running into this vampire dude, and then he's like, look, like you're done fucked pretty much for life because you've already killed 2 people, blah blah blah, like I'll turn you into a vampire, you work for me kind of thing. And then takes him out to Santa Carla, and like he just starts recruiting a little crew to turn into vampires and shit. Because they were saying how like his persona kind of fits the character. I'm like, that's fucking grasping, but that's pretty funny. Like that's a neat little connection they're trying to make there that doesn't really exist, but it was fun. But it'd be weird if it fucking did.
You can totally come up with some kind of story like to bring those good.
It was pretty funny though. I was like, that's an interesting concept, but I'm sure you're way off.
Right.
Yeah, because I saw Lost Boys like way before I saw Near Dark. I didn't see Near Dark till like years after Lost Boys. Yeah. But still, the Lost Boys, it's just, I don't know. It's just a fun movie that you can. I get what you're saying with the summertime thing.
Yeah, it's that vibe.
Yeah, totally.
That beach vibe, you know.
Mm-hmm. It does,
I mean, plus it was released in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. But it's like,
36 years. What the fuck, dude?
Getting old. I mean, all the recruiting scenes, I think, that's some of the best stuff where, David and them are trying to recruit Michael and trying to get him, bring him to the dark side and everything. Like the beach scene where they're trying to get him to feed. And, they all fly down and get the people around the fire and stuff like that. I think Kiefer said there was one of his favorite scenes from this film got cut because it was too graphic. And it was that scene where they were flying down and taking people from around the fire. And he said that the scene that they shot, he flew down and pretty much like bit the back of some guy's head off completely, something like that. And it was just way too bloody and graphic, and it ended up not making the final cut. And I don't even know if it's been released on director's cut or anything like that. It's MIA as far as I know.
It needs to be.
But it should come out because I'm curious. After him saying he's like, it was like whenever we did that was one of my favorite scenes because it just pushed the envelope so far of being kind of gory and violent.
Right.
And
he said it made it a real horror movie.
Yeah, and we never really got to see that. You just got to, got implied things. It's like, oh, they're taking these people and they're feeding off them and everything like that. But you don't get the gore, the graphic gore in this one, which obviously they want to keep the rating down. So that's not going to be the case. But it's like for somebody like me, I want more of that. I want it to be a little bit more gritty or a little bit more harsh.
Right.
Maybe more so now. Maybe as a kid, I just kind of was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm cool with it. But going back and watching it again recently, it's like, I feel like there's a lot I would do differently with this film. It seems like it jumps around a lot, and I think that is because they were saying that they had a script, but it wasn't really a script. It was kind of a bunch of ideas thrown together, and they were kind of winging it as they went. I feel like if it would have been a little bit more cohesive and had a better flow to it, I would have liked it even more so. And like you guys were talking about Max, I don't know. I don't think we got enough of that character or that story for me to really enjoy it. I think I would want more about Max. Now I get it. It's the big reveal at the end, like, oh, surprise, he's the head vampire. But,
right.
It just so it's like, okay, now he's the head vampire and he's about to take Diane Weist's character or whatever. And then Grandpa drives through the fucking house. I don't know how did Grandpa know drive through the house? Was he just drunk and drove through there? I don't know.
He had too many root beers.
Yeah, and just and just spears Max's character, and it's like, I wanted a little bit more action in this. I think if I would have, I'd do it differently. I'd have a little bit more story, a little bit more backstory for the vampires, lore. I think I probably would have the Frog Brothers kind of give some kind of lore lesson that they've picked up over the years. About they touch on a little bit, but I wanted a little bit more story, a little bit more depth to the vampires and what they're about, and then a little bit more action when it came to Max and even the Michael and David fight. I feel like it could have, it was what it was for the 80s, but I feel like it could have been better. I would have liked to see.
The sequel in the comic book. This is technically the sequel to The Lost Boys, and it kind of more touches on apparently Grandpa was actually a vampire hunter and nobody really knew, and he actually ran a whole organization of vampire hunters, and he was the head chief.
Van Helsing.
How you doing?
Yes. And then after that, everything went down. The Frog Brothers fucking get into there, and then Sam starts fighting vampires too and shit. And then Michael's kind of helping him out, and then they find out that David somehow is not really dead.
Right.
It's fucking interesting. It's a good book.
So yeah, I wanted a little bit more depth. Maybe that's just me being older and wanting a little bit more from it. But I know this is one of your favorites, so I can't hate on it too much because
it really is.
You give me shit.
It's a killer movie, man. It's fun.
We talk about Jamie Gertz.
Yeah, bang.
Really touch on Star a lot, and it's weird because I don't know where this stuff came from. Whenever I'm watching it, I'm thinking is there supposed to be some kind of correlation? They got David, and then they got Star, and it's the Star of David, and then Michael. A lot of religious type names, and so I don't know if that was it seems like it was put there on purpose, but
I don't know. Michael just thinks that her parents are hippies too. It's I almost got called Moonbeam or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, Jamie Gertz, she didn't do a whole lot. She did Twister, I think, and
I think a couple TV shows.
We were looking her up, and she said she's co-owner of the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah. Her and her husband is one of the owners of the Atlanta Hawks.
That shit's crazy.
So she's doing well. She's doing quite well.
Oh yeah, she's as far as her acting career, she did 16 Candles and Twister are big films.
Twister's good. That shit cracks me up.
I never understood that one.
She was fine in this film.
They wanted to go with a Meg Ryan type, I believe.
Yeah, they wanted her to be blonde.
Yeah. I think another one of those 80s things.
Yeah, everybody was blonde in the 80s. Fucking goofy.
But I believe they had to convince Jason Patrick to go with her, as he wanted.
He wanted her.
Oh, so it was the other way around. He wanted her, but
because they just did Solar Babies together.
Ah, that's right. Oh wow. I think I saw that movie when I was 6.
I actually watched it probably within the last year.
Really?
Yeah. I was on a weird kick there for a while.
That sounds like it.
I watched that and Flight of the Navigator and Prayer of the Roller Boys.
Flight of the Navigator. Man.
Prayer of the Roller Boys was our shit back in the day.
Oh, I love Prayer of the Roller Boys.
Is anybody a fan of Inner Space? Anybody?
Yes.
Yeah, that's good for shit too.
I'm possessed.
There we go.
There he is. That's a good picture.
The young Schumacher, youngish.
Yeah.
Schumacher directing these guys, and they did a great job. These guys. I think one of my favorite lines from this film is Corey Haim. Whenever Michael is back at the house the next morning after everything went down, and he's laying there and the phone rings and it's their mom and she wants to talk to Michael. And and he's like, hand me my sunglasses. He's like, you need your sunglasses to talk on the phone. But it made me crack up watching this the other day, audibly laugh out loud. He goes, are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know. I was like, such a good line. I don't know why. Just that one cracked me up.
One of my favorites is he calls him a shit-sucking vampire.
Yes, another one. Very, very relaxed for the fact that you just discovered your brother's a vampire. It's just like, oh, mom's gonna be pissed.
Yeah, we don't tell mom about this.
Yeah. So,
and when he's flying out the window.
Yeah,
that's
another really good scene. Yeah.
Don't listen to Sam. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
We got Nanook. You can't forget Nanook.
I was just gonna talk about. We got to give Nanook his.
Him and Thorn, they're both beautiful fucking dogs, man. I love me some dogs, and especially white shepherds. I had a white shepherd, and they're fucking just gorgeous. And then huskies are amazing too.
I had a few white German shepherds growing up. Good dogs.
And I feel like there was a little bit of undertones to that as well. Kind of like, when you look at like Twilight and stuff like that with the vampires and the lichens and stuff like that, the werewolves, it's kind of like, were they kind of alluding to the dogs being like werewolf types that were against vampires, and this just like touching on it briefly. It felt that way, where the dogs were the protectors, and then anytime the vampire types came around, they were like ready to attack. So,
yeah. I remember like another story Billy Worth always tells too, and I think he told us about it too, was whenever they were at a con one time, I think back when Brooke was still alive, and this kid came up and had him sign some shit and was like, yo, like, I love this movie, blah, blah, blah. And then he said years later they met Robert Pattinson at a convention, and he said, yeah, I met you guys whenever I was a kid. And it was that kid. Like, he was Robert Pattinson, like, actually coming up there to see him. And then they were talking about Twilight and stuff, and he's like, vampires don't sparkle.
They don't.
I mean, this was the film that inspired all that,
Everything.
The True Bloods, the Twilights, like I said, this was the blueprint.
Yeah.
For the telling of a modern day vampire. That's totally.
Yeah, like this movie, this fucking movie I've watched so many fucking, like, this is probably one of those movies where I've seen as many times as like Evil Dead and Clerks and shit like that. Like, it's just up there, like Trouble in Little China, Last Dragon, like, it's on my fucking can't live without list.
It was that fresh dynamic, like Whitman was talking about before. The stuff we saw before with Dracula and everything like that, it's like, Nosferatu, all these guys were like older or whatever. They're up in their castle, doing whatever they do. And it's like, this was like, okay, what if, we took Dracula when he was a teenager, what would he be doing? And, a teenager in California, what's Dracula doing? He's fucking cruising around on his motorcycle, picking up chicks, picking up dudes. Right. I don't know, whatever, just fucking eating people. And that's what this was, it's like, it's a fresh look on a familiar story.
Yeah. And then most vampires are in a cave too, or in a coffin all the time. And like that one scene when they're like, where's the coffins at? He's like, it's a cave. This whole place is a coffin.
Yeah.
And you hanging upside down.
So you incorporate that fresh new look and style to the familiar story, and you incorporate Joel Schumacher's attention to casting and style, and you got such a great film.
Yeah,
can't lose.
And the soundtrack, like we said before,
so good.
And Schumacher was the driving force behind that, because Kiefer and those guys said, like, they had no idea that the soundtrack was going to be like that. They just filmed it, and then later on, they saw it, and that was what Schumacher was kind of doing on the side, was orchestrating this amazing soundtrack. So.
And then people were really into NXS back then too. Like, they were coming out and getting real big. So like, that's like the fucking 80s like, killed everything. That shit was banging.
Damn.
Like, apparently I didn't even know too until I was reading some shit lately, but that I Still Believe song was actually a cover band, or a cover from a band called The Call that they just put out like the year before that. And then they fucking got Tim Capella to fucking go ahead and cover it. And he killed that shit. That shit's always stuck in your fucking head.
The rest is history.
It's in there right now, playing over on
right
now, at this very moment.
That's what I was telling Dave. I was like, that'd be fucking funny if Mike was on this thing fucking with this long wig on, shirtless, all oiled up with like a fucking blow up saxophone that you would buy from the dollar store.
You almost did it, didn't you? I thought about it.
There were so many people on Reddit betting money that I was going to show up on the episode tonight, oiled up with a saxophone. Like, nope.
No fans. I'm glad they were wrong.
I want us to have more episodes in the future. We gotta get rid of this fucking show.
Canceled. Yeah, because I thought about it too. I was going to text you guys and ask if anybody had a saxophone. But yeah, with me, this movie just checks all the boxes. Great soundtrack, great cast, just a movie you can watch anytime.
A lot of good one-liners, and it's like, even like regular lines are still quotable. Like, you can fucking quote this movie all day.
Yeah.
Like, I can pretty much recite the shit word for word as I'm watching it. I probably get annoying if I'm watching with somebody else.
Also gets in the category of fun movie.
It really does.
You know, it's a good one.
And it's over before you know it too.
Yeah, and even if you're not really like that much into vampire movies or horror movies in general, like it's a fun movie where, like, I know a lot of people who don't like horror movies love this movie.
Oh yeah, man! You snag the people that don't even care about horror.
Yeah,
because it's just like all right, it's Lost Boys. You know,
it's got a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
And there's so much like merchandise too for this movie now. Like I got so much fucking Lost Boys shit.
Merchandising.
Like I even have that one
the
David
real money
figure
from the movie is made.
Like I have all that shit.
Don't you have the Lost Boys, the flamethrower?
Yes.
The kids love that one.
But one thing about living in Santa Carla, I could never stomach.
All the damn vampires.
Thank you.
I thought he was going to come out with something different. I thought. Yeah.
Whatever.
I thought it was funny, so that's why I didn't say shit.
The maggots, Michael. You're eating maggots. You're eating maggots.
Nom 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 nom.
Chinese food.
They're just noodles. They're just noodles, Michael.
Why do you sound like Michael Jackson whenever you said that?
They're just noodles, Michael.
Just noodles, Michael.
He's talking to himself. Michael Jackson. Michael. This is how Michael Jackson would chill at his house whenever nobody was around. Eating his fucking couple noodles, and he'd just be sitting in the mirror, talking to himself. They're just noodles, Michael. They're just noodles. Oh, it's worms. Oh, get down.
Oh my
I'll wait
gosh.
for that.
I love this. This is so much fun. Any final thoughts on the Lost Boys?
Oh man, we're done.
Oh, we
Watch
don't
it
have to
over
be.
and over.
We
Yeah.
can go all night.
This fucking movie. God damn it.
For me, it checks all the boxes.
It's fucking amazing. Fucking amazing. Classic.
I mean,
Funny,
like,
bloody,
if you cut out
action-packed.
this part of the 80s, it fits the bill. And the film is as timeless as the vampires themselves.
Well said.
Yes.
Got really bright there for a minute, Mike.
That's why my future's so bright. That's why I need to wear sunglasses.
Shades.
Oh, did you break them?
Maybe. Where'd they go? I need sunglasses to talk on this podcast.
We all do today.
Yeah.
And then I'll go freebase.
Doesn't mean that.
I had to break out the teeth again. We've been doing a lot of vampire shit lately.
Yeah, I ain't mad at it.
I'm all right with that. But before we leave you all, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take my steak and fire up the random clip generator.
What is that?
What that is?
No.
Is-
What is it?
What?
What is in your hand?
My steak. It's our steaks. Weapons check. Weapons check.
Weapons check.
All right. All right.
They may or may not be chopsticks. The ones I bought from FYE.
There's no telling. But it is now time for our random clip of the week, in which we pick a random clip from a random movie and we see what happens. Let's see what happens.
Let's go see the entire hotel, shall we? I'll take you on a quick tour.
Well,
And then you can all get back to your Suckfest.
we're not here for a Suckfest. We're here for the convention. There's been a little mix-up, which is why.
Okay, I like convention too. Look at
Okay.
me, I'm at a convention. A fucking Suckfest convention here at the National Inn. Hey, assholes! More assholes for your big Suckfest tonight. How's the Suckfest going, assholes? You know.
I love this.
You've seen that movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the Reno 911 movie?
Yeah.
Huh?
That's what I thought. Yeah.
You're a little tired? You a little tired, Chuck?
Huh?
You a little tired?
Yes, very. But we're
After.
Long day?
Well, our man Chuck has been very busy. In fact, I don't think he sleeps. And available now, as usual, links in the description. Make sure you pick up your copy of Chuck Nasty's book, Thirsty.
It is a nasty debut.
It truly is.
Yeah. You can get a paperback and on Kindle Unlimited on Amazon. And here soon on if I can get this fucking thing to work for me, pre-orders will be ready for August 11th, and for House of Flesh for all the ebooks, and then I'll have the paperbacks out. It'll be out very soon, and it actually is coming out. Like, this is official now. And then got an anthology coming out with a couple other authors. It hasn't been released yet, so I must say anything else, but soon enough. But it's coming out next month too. So yeah, got a lot of stuff. It's working away.
Coming to you.
Whitman's busy as well, and don't forget to check out Whitman Photography. The link is in the description as well. Give him a follow on Facebook. Check out all his work.
Whitman, what?
Whitman?
In case you didn't understand what I said, the link is in the description.
Photography.
I don't want I don't say it like that.
Photography.
Photography.
Oh God! But this is another fun one. And what are we doing next week?
What are we
The
doing?
Great Outdoors.
More summer fun.
What are we doing, Young Guns?
Later.
Young Buns.
Let's go bowling. So stay tuned for that, as next week we'll be doing the Great Outdoors. Make sure you join us then. Once again, this is the Video Store Clerks Podcast. We thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us in the store tonight. This was another fun one. I love it. I've been swimming in raw sewage. I love it. And we will leave you with this. Thank you again, everybody. We'll see you next week.
One thing about living in Santa Carla I never could stomach. All the damn vampires.